Hello, photo class. I just wanted to do a follow-up demo on editing in black and white. All right, so I just wanted to show you how I went from this photo, which is a bit of a snapshot. It's crooked. You can tell the fountain is not lined up, so I wasn't very careful when I took the photo. But I like the imagery and wanted to play around with it to see if I come up with a good photograph. So this is before and this is the after edit. So it's been translated to black and white. It's much more dramatic. Things are straightened up and it's a much more professional looking photo at this point. So I just wanted to show you how I got from point A to point B on that. I am going to repeat some things that you've already learned in a previous YouTube lesson, but these are there's a few new things in here, and I also told you I would show you a different way to use a few tools. So I just wanted to go and follow up from the last videos. All right, so first off, we need to deal with the fact that this photo is really crooked. And so to do that, you need to use the crop tool. And so that's over here on the left sidebar. And so you click on the crop tool, and then instead of using it to crop, you look at some of the extra tools within the crop tool, which includes straighten. So you click the straighten tool, and then you basically have to click and drag on a point you know to be straight. So I'm going to click at the top of the angel's head and drag that straight down through the column of the fountain to what looks like a straight line through the fountain. And then when I release, it straightens it up. I also could have gone from the left side to the right side of the fountain to a couple areas that seem to be lined up with each other. That would have worked too. So it works both horizontally or vertically. And then I'm going to need to do a little bit of a crop to it. You can see that if I move this over, that it's basically just tilted the whole photograph over. And so if you don't crop it in, you're going to have a little bit of white space showing up. So I'm just going to pull this in a little ways, and I'm going to drag this down a little bit more. I want a bit more of the water in. And then, so I want to maintain some symmetry and look at having the space between the edge of the fountain to the edge of the image, or to the edge of the photo, to be the same as from here to here. Right now there's more space there, so I'm going to drag that in a little bit just for better symmetry. And you can also look at where the X's are lining up, and so you could also just line it up through those where X marks the spot here on the fountain and get it symmetrical there. So it just depends on what you're going for. And so I think I'm going to pull it in based more on the edge of the fountain and just let it be a little bit asymmetrical through the middle there. All right, I'm going to hit enter, and that looks pretty good. All right, so the next thing I want to do is look at if I want to lighten it or darken it. You could do something like image. You can hit auto tone or auto contrast or auto color. Those are really quick auto adjustments. If I just hit auto contrast, it actually just darkened it a little bit, so I'm going to undo that. Oops. Hit edit and undo. I could also go to image adjustments and levels and start to pull the levels sliders around. I'll start with the mid-grays and drag them over. I do like seeing it lightened up because I can see more detail in the angel's wings. So I think what I want to do, instead of just editing it all in one level, I think I want to create 2 layers and then edit from there. So because what I want to do is I want to keep the fountain itself pretty dark and the water dark, but I want to lighten up the face of the angel a bit and maybe a few more detail areas on the fountain. So in order to do that, what I need to do is just go up to layer and then duplicate the layer. And you can choose to name it here if you want. I'm just going to be lazy and leave it as background copy. All right, so I've got what's called background copy and the background image. So basically it's just the exact same image twice. And so what I can then do is lighten or darken one of these. So I'm going to choose to lighten the background version. And so I'm just going to go back up to image adjustments and levels, and I'm going to use the levels tool to lighten that up again. So I'm going to grab that middle slider and drag it over. You could also grab the far right slider and pull it over if you want, but really I'm just going to use this middle one for now. So I've just lightened it up significantly. As you can see, it's made the whole photo too bright, but that's okay because what I'm going to do is punch through that top dark layer and reveal some of the lower layer. All right, so I'm going to turn this back on. One thing to note, if you see the lock button, it's because you kept the original name, which is background. And so if I click and drag that, it won't let me restack the layer. So it kind of limits it if you wanted to change the layering order. So just double click it and then give it a name. Again, I'll be lazy and leave it at layer 0. And now I can drag that layer and put it on top. So if I'd prefer to have the light on top, erase through the light to reveal the darks, I could do that. Generally, you just want to erase what you have to erase the least amount of, right? And so if I were to try to erase all the light colors away that I don't want and reveal the darks, I would be erasing most of the photo. Because all I'm really wanting to do is just reveal a little bit of the detail on the angel and a little bit more on the fountain. So it makes more sense to have the light at the bottom and erase through the top dark layer. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So to start off, you could use the eraser tool, and you could grab the eraser tool and you could just start to erase through like I showed you in a previous video. But for this one, let's do something a little less destructive to the image that's easier to undo, basically. So we're just going to take this background copy layer here and add a layer mask to it. And then what you're going to do is actually draw on it. So right now it's white on the selected colors. So if I hit the D button, that sets it back to default, so the background is black and the foreground is white. And I'm actually going to flip that around. You could actually use the X button to toggle that back and forth. So you want the black on top. Choose a brush to work with, and you can change the size of it if you like, change the opacity and flow. I'm going to leave it at 60% on both of those, just so it's not so fast and punchy. If I put it all up to 100 and 100 on both of those, on flow and opacity, it's really going to punch through pretty quickly. And you can see it's lightening it up super fast. So I think that's a little bit too fast. I'd rather do a much more subtle job, so I'm going to turn that down. You can also do it by changing it to gray as well. So if you watch, so I've moved that down to 55%. Now it's going a little bit slower. Let me undo that. I could also leave that back up pretty high. I'm not going to go all the way to 100. And if I change it to gray, so I'm just going to drag this slider over here in my colors and shift that color. Now you can see here it's changed to gray. Or you could click on that and it'll give you the colors to choose. So if I choose a lighter color like mid-gray, it also goes slower. So let me show you how that works. So if you put that all the way on black, it erases really quickly. Gray goes slower, and if you go all the way to white, it actually undoes what you did. So white basically paints it back in place. If you hit the Option or Alt key and click on that, it just shows you what you're painting. Basically, you've got a layer that you're painting on, and so you're taking blacks and whites. So the white that I've got selected will just basically undo what I did. And anywhere I make black or gray, let me just pull this down, that's creating an effect that's erasing through that. So I'll hit Option Alt again, and you can see that's where it's erasing through, and that's how that works. So I'm going to undo all that nonsense that I just did though, and get back to the layer mask tool. All right, so I'm just going to really quickly do a little bit of erasing through this, and maybe just reveal a little bit of details in the face, a little bit across. That may be a bit light, but I don't want to spend forever doing this demo. So lighten that wing up a little bit. I don't actually like how that turned out. Back that up a little bit. So I'm going to turn my opacity and flow back down a little bit so it's not going so obnoxiously fast, and maybe gray it out just a little bit more and then do it. And that's going a little bit slower. You can actually make your brush smaller too if you like. So basically you get the idea. I would actually work on this a little bit longer if I were doing this, for real. So you could lighten up a little bit more of the fountain. That's a little crude. I would do that a little bit more refined. I'm going to turn the opacity and flow down even more here and work across. You could reveal a little bit more textures through there. So enough about that though. So basically I've done some selective lightening of areas that I want to cover. And so for the last effect, I showed you guys how to change to black and white. I'm going to show you this time how to use a layer to do that instead. So this time we're going to create a separate layer. So go to Layer and New Adjustment Layer. And then I'm going to go into black and white and hit OK. And then as we did before, you've got defaults you can use. You can use blue filter. That actually looks pretty good. Red filter, infrared, all those interesting options that you have there. I'm going to go back to blue. I liked it the best, I think. And that's pretty much done. That's kind of a done deal there. And so all these changes are really easy to undo. If you don't like that erasing through layer that you did, you could actually throw that layer away, just put it in the trash. You could apply mask to layer before removing. If you apply it, that actually does the change completely, or you can just hit delete and it goes away. And you can see that lightened up and undid those changes. And so you can turn these things off. You can see what it looked like before and after, and so forth. But if you're happy with the results that you got, you can then go to layer and you can flatten your image. And then that basically makes it one continuous image, and then go up to File, Save As. And don't overwrite your original file when you go to Save As. Just create a different name for it. So, so just add a number to it, or however you want to do that. So, all right, I'm going to cancel that out. So that's pretty much it. I will follow up with another demo that talks about how to do selective blur in a photograph. So, all right, thanks.